Hi, I'm Pat Barrett on Women's Radio 2, where we're now enrolling men and women. So that is the reason why we call it 2, as in also, because now we're also including men. Yay. And because of that, I have been lucky enough to find the most wonderful person who is one of the most excellent relationship coaches I've ever met. And today we have a great subject. It's called expectations. Oh, I know what it is, Kristen, great expectations, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if all of our expectations are great, and maybe we shouldn't have some of them, and maybe we should have more of them, or we, maybe want to expect more of ourselves, or not have those expectations. I don't know. We're going to find out from the expert. I'm very happy to have with me again and with us, Christine Baumgartner. Hey, Christine.
Hi, Pat. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you. And I think this will be a really fun, interesting subject that people maybe haven't thought about it in the way that I'm going to discuss it.
Yeah, I can't wait. Where are you going to start?
So, the subtitle of the expectations is Yours, Mine, and Ours.
Great.
Because what I realized for me personally, and have certainly developed it with my clients, is that we all have operating manuals inside of ourselves with different chapters about who I am as a child and a teenager, as an adult, and who I am at work, who I am at school. And then, so when we talk about relationships, who am I when I'm single? What are my expectations about me when I'm single? And what are my expectations about my friends when I go do stuff with them? And what are my expectations when I'm out just being a single person of other single people around me? And in the first place, most of the time, we aren't really conscious of what our expectations are, but we're really aware of when they get disappointed, unmet, or exceeded. We have a high emotion about that. And we still don't often even look at, well, why do I have all those feelings? Because I don't really know what my expectations are. So, what I tell people is to think about what kind of expectations do you have for yourself? Because what happens often is we make up expectations and we don't tell the other person. And then we're upset because, of course, they should just know this. Doesn't everybody know this? And we expect them to just know this. And then we also make up stuff about what we think they expect of us because it's what we learned in our family or it's what we've learned in our past relationships. So I'm going to know that you expect this from me. So now I'm going to do this for you because I expect that you expect this from me and I expect it from me too. And you can imagine what a problem that could be if we have different expectations and we haven't talked about them. Yeah.
And if you're operating on the thought that your friend has expectations and you're trying to fulfill it, and your friend could care less, and they're thinking, I wonder why she's doing this, So it's such a great, great subject. And I think you're right. I think that we have kind of, and probably left over from childhood, but things that go on inside of us on which we make decisions that don't even come close to being true. We don't question it. We just operate on it. And I think that that is one of the reasons why it is so difficult when you are working together. And if you haven't learned how to verbalize what you're really thinking and feeling, that you can go way off course. And I think that if we want to really have the best out of life, somehow we've got to learn how to question what is going on, what we are actually thinking, what we're actually choosing from what we're thinking, et cetera, and be a little more expressive. Use our words and be very considerate and be very respectful of other people.
Yes. Such a good point. So many good points. Because what often happens is, and I love having people raise their hand with this question. Have you ever done something for somebody that they didn't even like that you did it and they were so ungrateful about it? It feels
Don't
very
you love it?
unsatisfying.
Yeah, excuse me, you don't like it?
And when we laugh about it, it's like, well, did we ask if it was okay, or did they ask us to do this? No, we just assume. Or has anybody ever done something for you and then they're all a fluff that you didn't appreciate it, but you didn't ask for it, and it was the opposite of what you really would have wanted if they would have asked or you had it said? So unexamined first expectations and then unexpressed expectations get us in so much trouble. Now, one of the things I will tell you is that dangles a little carrot in front of the people, go, oh, it's kind of scary. And boy, what if they don't like what I asked for? Or what if I don't want to do what they asked for? I said, well, all that's a possibility. And sometimes you really think you know what it is. And when you ask them, it turns out it's right. How fun to get proof that you're right.
Right.
So it's not all the time that you're not going to be right. So I dangle that carrot that you're not always going to be mistaken, but it's better to find out ahead of time. So figuring out what are my expectations. So when you look in your manual, what are the things that I expect about myself when I'm single, when I start dating, when I want to be in a committed relationship, when I get engaged, when I get married, because they're very different chapters with often very different expectations of just who we are. Who am I in all those things? And then to say, how do I express this to the other person? This is who I am and what I expect of me. And so tell me who you are and what you expect of you. And then I'll tell you when I'm now meeting somebody that this is what I expect of them. So Christine always tells a gentleman. So when I first start meeting somebody, I meet them out for the first 2 or 3 times. And then about the fourth time, I will invite them to pick me up. And I let them know I really like having my door opened, the car door opened every time. So they know ahead of time, this will make me so happy, and I will say thank you. And the men are always surprised because they're like, wow, you would like that, and you will tell me? And I go, yeah, and I'll even say thank you. Because what happens is women tell me, oh my God, he never opens the door. I said, well, did you tell him you would like it? No, he should just know. I said, do you wait for him to open it? No, because he never does. So if you ask or you just stand there, it's easier if you ask, but you could just stand there. And then when he goes walking around to his side, you could say, oh, I'd really like it if you'd open the door for me, and it would make me so happy. Okay. And it's funny because I was single a very long time between my marriages, and I've been single now since my husband died. And I've had invited a few hundred men in that time to open the door for me. And I was recently, last year, said this, and he said, no,
Oh,
it's the first time ever. So good to find out that there's somebody who said all the time. I said, yeah, all the time. He goes, I can't do that. And he explained to me all the antiquated reasons and why. And he said, why do you want it? And I said, because I know it's an effort and it makes me feel important. And there were a few other things, but I said, we're not each other's people.
that's right.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's
So
just not a match.
when you know what your expectations are and you express it to the other person, they now have a chance to say no, which is perfectly fine. How nice to know early on that, is this a deal breaker for both of you, which turned out it was. There were a couple other things, but it certainly was added to it. That you say, oh, how easy to find out that you're not each other's people. But what I found a lot of the time is when you say, gosh, I really need this, it would make me really happy. They go, oh, great, I could do that. Or, I can't do it exactly like that, but I could do it this way. Would that be all right? And then you do some negotiating, which is so valuable. So the first thing you need to do is figure out in all your different relationships and who you're with and how it advances what it is that you need and want. So the other thing that I will say as I'm getting to know somebody is I like a good morning text.
Oh, that's really thoughtful.
I
I've
do.
never even thought about that, but I
And
like that idea.
and because I don't turn my phone off, I prefer it to happen after 8 o'clock. So now they really know. And I really like a good night text. And then as we get to know each other more, I'm like, and I really like a check-in in the middle of the day. And I had one man saying to me, wow, I could do the morning and the night, but the way that my day is structured, it would be really hard for me to guarantee I could do it every day. And I said, okay, thanks for explaining. I really will be okay with it. Just do it now and then. So it was kind of sporadic and then it got really regular. I said, what did you do? He goes, I set an alarm because you were so appreciative when I remembered to do it. I put an alarm on my phone to send you a text. Now there's some women that go, oh my God, he should just remember. I go, I thought it was really great that he put an alarm. So when you say, this is what I'd like, and the minute you exchange phone numbers, say, this is the kind of pattern I like. I like, because
Mhm.
everybody doesn't want the same amount. I've heard all over that they want lots or none or every other day. Out loud, say, this is what I prefer, and tell me what you prefer.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because sometimes it's apart, but can you, like the guy who said, I can't in the middle of the day? Okay, I really was fine enough with it. So then you work it out. So if you start out with just right from the beginning, talking about your expectations and letting the other person talk about their expectations, you form this foundation where you can now do it later when you like, oh, that's a big thing to talk about. And you have a track record of already talking about things and living through it. So like, oh my gosh, it's so scary. Well, then do little things, but then do bigger things. And don't leave anything to assumption. Don't leave anything that you haven't said out loud that's really important to you at all, even if it's just a little important.
I am, I think about our conversations a lot, Christine, and one of the things that I love that you do is that you actually let someone else know that you're eager to appreciate them. You're eager to thank them. This is what you would really, you let people know what makes you happy, and you never fail to give them that feedback when they do those things. And I think I've brought this up before, but I've participated in adult children of alcoholics. And one of the things that comes up over and over again is your inner child. How are you taking care of your inner child? And I think that people have it's more common language now than it used to be. But it's true that we, in effect, have several people that we have on the inside that we look after, as it were, and that we don't acknowledge to anyone else. But that little person or that teenage person or whoever that is needs to get recognized. And it also leads us to have really much better conversations with people that we enjoy being with. And I was thinking about the time that my husband and I had together. And I think now there were so many opportunities for me to tell him how much I liked and appreciated things that he did and how good I thought he was in some areas. So I did try and do that. But and that he would do things that he thought would please me, but he never asked me in advance. And it almost never happened that I liked it. But when he allowed me to be part of the process, I cherished it. It's just interesting how we don't verbalize things, and then we kind of expect things to work out anyway.
We have an inner thing inside of lots of both men and women of don't ask, don't tell. It's too vulnerable. What if I don't get it? What if they don't like it? What if they don't like me because I like that? And so that sets us up for failure. The other thing is this thing that we think, well, everybody thinks the same way. So why don't they just know this? Or if they love me enough, they would just know this. And so if we set it up from the beginning saying, I'm happy, let me teach you something about me. That's how I always start that conversation. Would you like to learn something about me? I don't know that you'll like it, but we'll see after I tell you. So when we do that, and you're doing, we talked about taking care of all the people inside of us. I went and saw Inside Out too in the park. It was
Oh,
so
isn't that
funny.
great?
It's
Yes.
so darling. And I can relate to all those little people inside.
Amen. Me too.
The more we honor ourselves, the more we take care of ourselves, all the selves that you just mentioned, the more empowered we feel, the less hesitant we'll feel, the less concerned we are going to be with what the other person's reaction is going to be. And then asking for it makes us feel more empowered. And then when the other person we see, they care enough to really work out how to do this thing that we've asked, that makes us feel even more empowered. And then we feel even more empowered to ask again. And then also the reciprocity is we give them permission to ask us, even if it's something we might have to work a little hard to do for them. So it only spirals up, it only gets better by asking and telling in the nicest way. Because the other thing that happens is we women get very mad that the man does or doesn't do something that we didn't tell him that we want him to do or don't want him to do. And it's unfair. It's very unfair because there's no time machines. They can't go back and fix it. So I do a lot of cleansing of all the things that you're mad about that you haven't said to him before. And we're going to start out fresh with you're going to ask him for the very first time and see, can he do it without having all that baggage of how upset you are because he hasn't done it for 6 months or 10 years, but you've never asked him. You've never told him.
I think that a lot of it is none of us have ever really been taught and or shown other people doing exactly what you're talking about. And I was just thinking, Christine, you know those new I think they do it on Alignable. I can't remember where you get together and you get to know each other really quickly and then you move to another person, etc. Don't you think that would be the perfect place to practice something like this? Because you don't have as many expectations of those people, and then everybody would be being encouraged to do that thing. And how, it gives you a chance to hear yourself saying, what I'd really like is to ask you this, and what would you like? We just not taught to do those things.
No, it's don't ask, don't tell from the time we were little and goes back generations. And I actually coach people to go do speed dating because
Yeah, speed dating,
they,
right?
because doing all the things you said would be perfect. We don't know to do that. We don't know what our expectations are. We don't know the 5 important things about us to now say and to ask the other person. And we have, sadly, unless we prepare, we have lots of expectations. If they make a face because they have gas, we've decided they don't like us. If the girl's screaming because her dress is too short, the guy thinks he's making her uncomfortable. So unless we've prepared ourselves to really have realistic expectations. So I am not saying at all you shouldn't have expectations. I want to make them realistic. If you have realistic, attainable, the things that you have 100% control over are very attainable. Now you're going to include another person. There's no guarantee. But I'm going to teach you how to ask and then see, is there a way to get what you want from them? But there's no way we're not going to have expectations. We just have to manage them better. Because the problem is if we don't get them, we're going to be upset. And the really thing that women don't understand, men don't have as big a problem with this. Let's say you've only been dating for a short while and he did this accidentally, this spectacular thing that was so your thing. And you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God. You're going to think he's going to do it every time or something better, but you're not going to say that. So he's screwed.
Well, can't you just tell him how much you really appreciated him doing that?
You
And
would hope, but
you
we
would hope.
don't. We don't.
That's not
We
good.
don't. No, women are very vocal about what we are unhappy about
But
because we
not
think that'll
as
be
vocal
comfortable.
about what we should be praising them
What
for and thanking them for.
we just aren't. It's not a normal, natural thing for us. I'm happy to teach it. I teach it all day long, every day, because
Well,
we're
let me
much,
ask you
yes.
another question. Do you think we do this with our girlfriends too? I mean, are we just always doing like?
No, no. We, it was interesting. I had somebody really verbalize it once when we dug into this. Well, d is that unmasculine to compliment him? Is he mammy pammy? Does that mean I'm having to take care of him like I do my kids? I praise my kids. Said, do you like being praised? Yeah. Do you like being complimented? Yeah. Wouldn't he? Wouldn't he like it? But somehow, and we did figure out where she'd learned that complimenting men was not a good idea. That you only tweak them, you help them, you fix them to be better. And she meant it in the most positive way. But yeah, she thought
When
he
she
was
said it out
needy.
loud. When she
She
said it out loud, she was probably very surprised at herself, huh?
she thought he was being needy, that he was happy when she would be appreciative. We get these screwed up ideas from parents who mean their best. They haven't been taught this either. So I'm just grateful that I get to teach so many people this, because then you are so much more satisfied personally in your relationship, because every time you say something positive, you're like, oh, I'm married to a really great guy. Because if we don't, it's not that we don't notice it, it goes by, but we don't say it. So then both people miss
Good.
out. But we're
Yes,
really
it is.
fast with but you know, if you took out the trash, yeah,
I love that story.
thank you.
Well, I do think one of the things I'm focused on lately is it's really learning to be more grateful. Just myself and with my universe and so forth. And I find how often I am critical, like, and that I'm not satisfied. And it's almost like no matter what, I have tendency to see not the best. How about that?
That's very self-aware. I'll be curious to
So,
hear what you do about it.
yes. Well, I usually employ other people to remind me.
That's good. That's a very good task for somebody to
Well,
do.
the other thing I was thinking about, Christine, is when you did the disc program, et cetera, you did two different ones. But I think that we really need more coaching and more education on learning how other people do not think like you. They are not wired to think like you, and that you need to have a little more empathy and learning and being open to the fact that that person is a C and they need a lot of security or whatever. Is that an S? I can't remember. Anyway, and you need to be aware of that, like with every person that you meet.
Yep.
And then you need to give, in a sense, if you're going to give, that you give what that person really needs.
Or not, then they're not your person.
Yeah, or not, but but we don't employ enough good information, and we operate on things that we actually are not even conscious of, which is really too bad.
My mom used to say, so many people walk around unconscious most of their life.
So I kind of am hoping that the things that we're doing is really making people aware that with the awareness to use the right words, take the plunge, be willing to ask the question, that we'll all become better and better at listening and talking with other people in a way that is going to be more harmonious.
It
And
would
if
be helpful.
there's anybody on the planet I know, I can hear people who know me say, well, if there's anybody on the planet who ought to be taking her own advice, it's you, I'm sure that's true. So, but I think it is important to say these things and to really search to find ways that you can remember and can begin to learn about yourself and other people so that you can be happy and they can be happy and the world can be happy, that kind of thing. Yep.
It all starts with ourselves. It's
Yes.
learning about ourselves. I've found myself fascinating my whole life. I can't not think about me or talk about me, or it's all fascinating to me.
Well,
Yeah, I
I
love
think that
learning. I love learning.
me too. Me too. We definitely have that in common. I think that sometime, either in pieces or all together, we ought to return to the like the DISC program and the other
Sure.
Myers-Briggs and so forth, because we don't study that every day and we don't use that every day. But if we had little ways to say, oh, he must be a D or she must be a C or whatever, we would begin to become more conscious and realize all the various parts of a person, and then also realize it in ourselves. So I hope that you'll think about coming back to that sometime, and maybe we'll find a new and interesting way to approach that information.
Yeah. Certainly, because I love teaching about listening to learn instead of responding, and how to stop interrupting each other, because men and women interrupt each other. We're all professional. I'm a recovered, but I was a professional interrupter, and I've learned to stop doing it. And I'm really on a tear to teach people to stop interrupting each other, because it's remarkable what you will find out about the other person if you stop interrupting them.
Indeed.
Mhm. It's a fun
Well,
thing to teach.
this has been a great conversation. I hope other people have enjoyed it as much as I have. But
I hope so too.
please let us know. And please let us know if you have questions that you really want to ask Christine. I think that would be really, really wonderful. I've got a few other ideas, Christine, that I didn't spill all the beans before we started recording. So
Good.
we're gonna dig in and come up with a lot of new things too,
Cool.
and ways of doing it so that we can get more people involved in these great conversations. I've
Well, we have lots of things to talk about
We do,
next time.
we do, we
Yep.
do. I'm so excited. Well, thank you once again
My
for coming to us and sharing the wealth of knowledge that you have gained, and we really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure as always. Thanks for asking me back.
Thank you.